In this video, we're going to be taking a look at how to assemble the 32-inch Xtension Upright Arcade Cabinet. Shown here are all of the parts and tools required for the base section. Step 1. Lay the right side of the base of the cabinet on a soft surface. Insert the wood dowel pins into any holes that are not through holes. When done, there will be a total of 11 dowels installed. Quick tip, when inserting the metal cross dowels in the next step, make sure that the slot is facing upwards. The slot must also be aligned with the holes on the side of the panel. If needed, you can adjust the position of the cross dowel with a flathead screwdriver so that it is perfectly aligned with the hole. Next, install 2 metal cross dowels in the remaining holes towards the top of the panel. Repeat this step on the opposite side panel, but do not install any of the wood dowel pins on that panel. For this next step, insert 4 metal cross dowels into the corners of panel number 32XT-B2, remembering the correct orientation from the previous step. We will now insert panel B2 onto the lower pins of the side panel. The longer side underneath the cutout will face the bottom of the cabinet, and the panel number will face the inside of the cabinet. Align the hose on panel B2 with the front lower pins of the side panel and drop it into place. Next, insert cross dowels into each of the corners of both B3 panels. After this, insert one of the 2 B3 panels into the bottom 2 pins of the side panel. And insert the second B3 panel into the 2 center pins. If not using a coin door, you can install the B2 front panel with the cutout in either of these positions and install one of the blank B3 panels in the front instead. We can now install panel 32XT-B5 into the 2 pins above the front panel. Next, install panel 32XT-B6 with the hole facing the back of the cab into the 2 pins at the very top of the side panel. Screw the door stopper into the pre-drilled hose beneath the slot on the side panel. Make sure to repeat this step on the opposite side panel. Insert the keyboard tray into the slot and rest it on the adjoining panel. Next, install 10 dowel pins into the holes shown here. We can now install the unmarked keyboard door. Face the unfinished side towards the bottom of the cab and the pilot hose towards the inside of the cab. Insert a dowel pin into the hole on the side of the door as shown here, and insert the door into the remaining pin in front of the keyboard tray. Hold the door in place while a second person grabs the left side panel. Lay the panel over the top, look underneath, and adjust as necessary until all of the pins are in the correct holes. You can now secure the left panel using 6 60mm bolts as shown here. Do not over-tighten the bolts. For this step, rotate the base of the cabinet 90 degrees to its upright position. It's very important to keep pressure on the unbolted side as there are no bolts securing it in place. Insert an additional 6 60mm bolts on the right side of the cabinet, and once again, do not over-tighten. You can now install the push-to-open hardware using the pilot hose on the inside of the side panels, and you can also install the metal catch brackets to the pilot hose on the keyboard door. Finally, insert 8 wood dowel pins into the holes shown here. Congratulations, at this point you're halfway done. And now, let's move on to the top section. Shown here are the parts and tools required for the top section. We'll start by assembling the TV mounting bracket. Insert 4 dowel pins into the holes shown here on part number 32XT-T7. Next, insert a metal cross dowel into each mounting bracket side panel as shown here. Remember to use the correct orientation from earlier in the video. Face the slanted edge of the right side panel towards the top and insert it into the dowel pins you previously installed. You can now secure the side panel to the rest of the bracket with a 60mm bolt. Flip over the bracket, insert the bolt, and secure it in place. Repeat these steps on the left side panel. We will now move on to the top left side panel of the cabinet. Insert a metal cross dowel into the bottom center hole, followed by 5 wood dowel pins into the holes shown here. When done, insert a metal cross dowel into the top right panel. Next, insert 2 metal cross dowels into panel 32EXT-T6, face the panel number towards the inside of the cabinet, and insert the panel into the pin shown here. Repeat these steps on the second T6 panel. Once again, face the panel number towards the inside of the cab and install in the pin shown here. Next, install 2 metal cross dowels in speaker panel number 32EXT-T3, face the slotted side towards the front of the cab, and insert into the single pin shown here. You can now install panel 32XT-T4 into the 2 pins above the speaker panel. Next, install 5 dowel pins into the holes shown here. Place the previously assembled TV bracket in place and secure to the side panel using 2 of the 4 TV bracket bolts. You can now lay the right side panel over the top, look underneath, and adjust as necessary until all of the pins are in the correct holes. Secure the top right side panel using 3 60mm bolts as shown here. Once again, do not over tighten the bolts. You can now secure the left side of the TV mounting bracket using the 2 remaining bolts. We are now ready to rotate the top section of the cabinet 90 degrees to its upright position. Secure the left panel with an additional 3 60mm bolts. Remember not to over tighten the bolts. With the assistance of a second person, lift the top half of the cabinet, align it with the 4 dowel pins on top of the base section, and drop it into place. From the back of the cabinet, insert 2 bolts into the recessed sections on both sides of the cab. If the bolts are not going in smoothly, you can adjust the position of the cross dowels in the top section using a flathead screwdriver. It is best to hand tighten the bolts as much as possible, and then finish them off using the provided M4 Allen key. Next, separate the speaker grills from the plastic rings. Screw the rings into the pilot hose on the speaker panel using the provided screws. Finally, reinsert the grills into the plastic rings. You can now attach any necessary cables to your TV, route the cables through the cable management hole, and rest the TV against the mounting bracket. Quick tip, see link in video description for a more detailed video on mounting a TV or monitor. Next, stack a small and larger washer onto each of the 4 monitor screws and secure the display to the mounting bracket from the back of the cabinet. It is best to hand tighten each screw as we will be adjusting the vertical position of the display. In this example, we will raise the monitor to position it into place, after which we will tighten each screw with a screwdriver. Next, remove the protective film from the monitor plexiglass and slide it into the grooves on the top of the cabinet. You can now adjust the front to back position of the TV bracket to your liking. Once in place, tighten the 4 screws to secure the bracket. Next, peel off the backing from the adhesive dots and apply a dot to each side of the LED light housing. Stick the LED light to the rear marquee panel and route the wires as shown here. You can now install the marquee into the slots on the side of the cabinet. Flex the plexiglass as necessary to get it in place. Next, install 4 metal cross dowels into the corners of panel 32XT-T5. Align the slotted side with the top of the marquee and carefully drop it into place. Finally, secure the top panel using 4 60mm bolts. Remember not to over tighten the bolts. For this step, we will be installing the pre-assembled extension controller. Open the keyboard door, then pass the cables through to the back of the cabinet. Align the controller over the 4 front dowel pins of the cabinet, then push down until flush. Secure the controller in place using the 4 large head bolts. It is very important not to over tighten these bolts as you may crack the plexiglass overlay. We will now install the coin door if you opted for this option. Start by hand tightening the mounting brackets along the perimeter of the door. Quick tip, in the description of this video you will find links with instructions on how to assemble the lock as well as how to install a fully functional coin mech. With the brackets installed, place the coin door into the panel cutout, moving any brackets out of the way as necessary. Once fully installed, close the door and lock it. From the back of the cabinet, swing the brackets to make contact with the wood and tighten them using a screwdriver. Congratulations, you have just assembled your Xtension Arcade Cabinet, and now it's time to play.